There's a ongoing issue with non-college football playoff bowl games, and I don't know that it can be fixed. And it stinks because it takes away from the football that we know, love, and enjoy. When the bowl games are announced and you don't make a New Year's Six, and not even some players a New Year's Six, if you don't make the college football playoff, there is a logical downtime. Like the coaching carousel, for the most part, is winding down when bowl matchups are announced. The transfer portal has started to heat up, and you get guys that are announcing where they are transferring to or where they're transferring from. And then you get the announcements of who will and who won't play in bowl games. And it stinks. I want you to play in the bowl game. I completely understand that college players are wholly focused on the money that they can / will make in the NFL. And I have no issue with that. When it comes to that much money, I think you have to be selfish. Like, it makes sense to prioritize yourself, your family, your parents, your siblings, your future children, your significant other, whatever. I have no qualms with that. But I do want to see you play in the bowl game. Like, Sam Hartman's not going to play in the Sun Bowl for Notre Dame. And I can't fault him for that, right? I can't say, hey, you can't take the chance of getting hurt in the bowl game and that derailing your future NFL career. And I don't know what Sam Hartman's NFL career looks like. I don't know if he is a career backup. I don't know if he has flashes of greatness, whatever. If he becomes a franchise quarterback and becomes a Hall of Famer. I don't know what Sam Hartman's NFL future entails. But I know that it's not great enough that he has to sit out the bowl game. And I don't know what the answer is outside of college football playoff expansion, because now, instead of pretty much every great player, like, for instance, at Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. is like, well, I might come back. I might play in a bowl game. He's not going to do either of those things. He's not going to play in a bowl game. He's not coming back. There is not enough NIL money out there to make him come back, because at some point you're just punting on your second NFL contract, that you're just delaying that, because Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to make a lot of money in the NFL. And I don't think anybody can fault him that, like, oh, you don't want to play in the Cotton Bowl against Missouri. How selfish of you. Now, there are some people who could, but those people are dumb. Those people are idiots. When you're talking about that much money, and you could argue Marvin Harrison doesn't need that money. His dad played in the NFL ball. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to make hundreds of millions of dollars in the NFL. More than $100 million in the NFL. I have no problem prioritizing that rather than playing Mizzou in the Cotton Bowl. It makes sense. Sam Hartman's not going to play in the Sun Bowl. Apparently, Bo Nix is going to play in the Fiesta Bowl. Like, that's more power to you. I don't, again, somewhat similar to Sam Hartman. I don't know what Bo Nix's NFL future looks like. If it was super bright, I don't know that he would be playing his 19th season of college football this year. But outside of college football playoff expansion, where next year, instead of being the top 4 teams, everybody's playing those playoff games, that the top 12 teams or top 11 teams in group of 5 school are going to play in the bowl games. And then after that, it'll be done. The only way, and I don't even know if this is good enough to entice players to play in the bowl game, is using NIL money, is using the bowl sponsors that, by God, if the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl is the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, and they want Sam Hartman to play because they need eyeballs on the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, guess what, Kellogg's? You can pony up money to Sam Hartman so he'll play in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl or the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl. You want players to play in the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl so more people watch, so you get more money for your investment. And I don't know if, ESPN takes less money for bowl name rights sponsors and they use part of that, or the bowl sponsors use part of that money that they would have paid ESPN to say, hey, instead of paying you X amount of dollars, we're going to pay you this. and we're going to reserve this much money when this school says, hey, these guys aren't going to play. And we say, well, what if we give you 25 grand to play in the game? Would Sam Hartman play in the Sun Bowl if Kellogg said, like, hey, we'll give you 25 grand in like a month-long promotional campaign with Frosted Flakes? Probably not. Now, it doesn't hurt, right? Like, hey, I appreciate that offer. 25 grand is 25 grand. But when you're trying to prioritize, like for Marvin Harrison Jr. in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl, Goodyear's like, hey, we're going to give you free tires for life. Okay, no, I'm good. Goodyear says, hey, we're going to pay you 50 grand to play in the game. It's almost more short-sighted to take that money, right? Because you're going to make $100 million in the NFL at least. You're going to get a first year, you're going to get a rookie contract, and then you're going to get a second contract. And that second contract is going to pay Marvin Harrison Jr. a lot of money. He is going to probably be, when it's all said and done, the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. He's just got that stamp on him. Now, there have been surefire wide receivers that have not panned out in the past. I'm looking at you, Justin Blackman. I lost a lot of money on that bet. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get a second contract in the NFL. He's going to make 3 numbers before the comma by the time his career is said and done. So if Goodyear says, hey, we'll pay you 50 grand to play in the game so more people watch, you're kind of even dumber for taking that money, right? Like at first I was prioritizing the $100 million I'm going to make in the NFL, but now this company comes in with 50 grand, right? I got to take the deal. Well, no, no, you don't. So I don't know what the fix is. And I don't blame the kids, but there's obviously a problem. I think people can agree on that. The issue for most people, I think, is confronting the fact that bowl games have always, for the most part, been meaningless exhibitions. And there's like this entrenched standard football guy that's like, oh my God, they're ruining the bowl games by sitting them out. They're treating them like they're meaningless exhibitions. Unless you have the chance to win the national championship by vaulting to the top of the AP poll in your bowl game, it has always been a meaningless exhibition. If you didn't have the possibility to vault from number 4 to number 1 in the AP poll pre-1998, your bowl game was a meaningless exhibition. And dealing with that fact that there are distinct memories. I have distinct memories of Joe Germain leading Ohio State down the field to win the Rose Bowl against Arizona State. Now, at the time, I didn't have the ability to comprehend that if Arizona State wins this game, Jake Plummer's going to win the Sun Devils a national championship. I didn't know that at the time. I just really liked Ohio State. Joe Germain's my guy. I want to watch Ohio State win the Rose Bowl. But that was a big deal. And then when you look back on that now, a really long time later, that's not necessarily a case in point for meaningless bowl game, but I've watched Ohio State play meaningless bowl games. I've watched tons of meaningless bowl games. I think the greatest college football game ever played was Boise State, Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. And you know what? It was a meaningless exhibition. It did nothing. You know what either squad was going to get out of winning that game? Nothing. They get nothing out of it. Not a darn thing other than you get to say, we won. You get to take the memories with you. That's cool. That's awesome. But for the most part, bowl games have always been a meaningless exhibition. Damn near every orange, gator, sugar, peach, rose, cotton, Outback Steakhouse Bowl, all of them, for the most part, have been meaningless exhibitions that are disguised as a reward for the players when really it's economic impact to a city, and a bunch of like rich old white guys can stay on the committee and take bribes and find ways to make some more money out of their already lucrative tax evading businesses. Like, and that's like a super cynical deep dive into the world of bowl games, but it's true. If you're on a bowl game committee, basically what you're doing is some shady stuff. And then you disguise it with like, but we gave away some turkeys at Thanksgiving. It's community impact, whatever. But having to confront the fact that for the majority of college football's bowl game history, they've been meaningless exhibitions, isn't a fun thing to confront and have to deal with. So people lose their minds when Christian McCaffrey was kind of the first guy to do it, to say, I'm not playing in this bowl game. It doesn't mean anything. And why would I potentially injure myself and affect my future earnings? And people lost their minds to the point of like NFL teams like, well, he's not even on our draft board because if he's going to do that to his teammates aren't stupid. They understand that there are millions of dollars at play. And I think that there's a distinct difference between like, if somebody were to say, hey, I got to the college football playoff semifinals, but you know what? I'm not going to do this. If Quinn Ewers said, I'm not doing this, so I'm going to the NFL, then yes, that is supremely selfish because you're standing in the way of your team reaching its ultimate goal of winning a title. But I don't think anybody's going to do that. I don't think anybody in the college football playoff, hell, even conversation going into the selection or whether you make those 12 slots or not, I don't think there are going to be a ton of kids leaving for the transfer portal in that scenario. And then two, I don't think there are a ton of people that are going to declare for the NFL draft and sit out a college football playoff game. I don't think that's going to happen. And it's not like I don't envision this happening. I don't envision a scenario where that happens. I don't envision a scenario where somebody says, yeah, I played these 12 or even some cases 13 games, but you know what? We're a 12 seed. They're a 5 seed. We're probably not going to win. I'm going to sit out and protect my draft interests. I don't think anybody's going to do that. I don't think you're going to see that. So the idea that that's going to happen, I think is even too cynical for me to get on board with. That the idea that there are going to be kids that, they're treating it like it's a meaningless exhibition. I don't think those games are going to be treated like a meaningless exhibition. You're going to sit out the Motor City Bowl. Yeah, that's a little different than the college football playoff national championship game. Like the two things are not equal. But I don't know that there is a natural remedy that says, hey, because you can listen to NFL scouts, front office, GM, coaches, all of that stuff. You can listen to them say, we're questioning whether this guy really loves football. He didn't want to play in a bowl game. We're going to, if they're good enough, they're going to take them. Even if the number one overall pick was like, hey, I'm not going to play if Caleb Williams sat out the entire 2023 season, there's still somebody that has the number one overall pick or wants the number one overall pick. It's going to go, I don't really give a damn if he's not a football guy. The talent's there. I'm going to take him number one overall. So until that is like supremely punished, and it's never going to be, because you can say all of the fancy things about culture and everything that's going to get people feeling all warm and fuzzy on the inside. But in reality, we're going to take guys who play football real good with real good draft picks. So there's not going to be a natural deterrent, I don't think, of we want players to play in the bowl game. How do we get that to happen without them diminishing their draft stock? Like a guy like Jake Butt, who was the tight end at Michigan, who I thought was a surefire, future Pro Bowl tight end, got injured in their bowl game because he made the decision, I'm going to play in the bowl game. And it probably wrecked his NFL future. And now he's calling games on Big Ten Network instead of still being a Pro Bowl tight end. And it sucks and I hate it, because I want you to play in the bowl game because I still want to be entertained. I say this somewhat sarcastically all the time of anytime somebody gets injured or whatever, and they're like, well, they're questionable to return. I'm not watching the rest of your life. I'm watching this football game. I want to be entertained. So I don't really care if you're like, you could injure your knee a little bit more if you go back out there. Well, I'm not watching you climb the stairs when you're 60. I'm watching this football game right now. I want to see you play. And that's treating people like pieces of meat. I understand the issues that come with that. Believe me, I get it. But that's the reality as well. So I don't know that there's ever going to be, and I don't know if there's enough NIL money out there for companies to say, hey, we're sponsoring this bowl game. The Outback Bowl is not a thing anymore, but it was for a really long time. And I think they're brilliant because they don't have to pay for it to be the Outback Steakhouse Bowl anymore. They don't have to pay for it to be the Outback Bowl anymore, but people still call it the Outback Bowl. But if Outback was like, hey, we're going to pay Sam Hartman and Bloomin' Onions and $30,000 to play in the the Outback Bowl. Like, that's kind of brilliant strategy, right? But I don't know that there's a college football player that is, if they're prioritizing their NFL draft stock, what's the number that's going to make you be like, yeah, that will be worth it to me? Because if that's what your ultimate goal is, that's your ultimate reason for sitting out is future dollars, future, like, not affecting your future contract. It's short-sighted to then turn around and say, well, I'll play for 30 grand, right? Like, that's messed up. That's worse than doing it for free, I think. Because that's just naming a price and saying, like, well, if my future contract was going to be worth $8 million, but now I'm willing to throw that away for the 50 grand and a couple of bloomin' onions from Outback, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think that the power brokers in college football, the conference commissioners, athletic directors, university presidents, the bowl committees, all of those things would tell you, and I think the players might even tell you, that there is a problem there. But solving it is a whole other issue. And I don't know what the fix is. And I don't think anybody knows what the fix is, because if there was one, if there was a natural, like, oh, well, all you've got to do is X, Y, Z, I think they would have done it by now. So I don't know what the fix is. And I wish there was a simple, natural, easy fix, because I want to watch you play your bowl game. I want to see at the end of the year, because it's a sport so deprived of marquee big-time matchups, and going forward with the expansion of the Big Ten, with the expansion of the SEC, that reputation and moniker might go away, that there might be more big-time matchups between big-time schools. But by and large, we only get a lot of those matchups in bowl games. So I want to see what the third best team in the SEC looks like against the third best team in the Big Ten. I want to see what the fourth best team in the ACC looks like against the fourth best team in the Big 12. I want to see it. And I want to see it at full strength and not shells of themselves. Like, you went 10-2, but you've lost your head coach to another program. Your quarterback is sitting out to go to the NFL draft, and 13 players have entered the transfer portal. I don't want to see that, but I also am cognizant of there are bigger factors at play than just what happens between those lines on the football field. And I don't know if NIL is enough to fix it. But my thought is, hell with it. Give it a try. See if it works before poo-pooing it. But that's just my view on it. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out here on Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a really long way in helping out the channel. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel right here on the Daily Huddle with Saturday Glory.